Chapter 5, Later. Oh, fuck, yes, Darian. Fuck. Darian. Like that. Please. Darian. Oh Darian, one of my flailing hands caught my MacBook Air and knocked it onto the floor with an ominous sounding crash. Oh no, babes. Is that gonna be a white? I don't care, just don't stop. I arched my back to better receive his cock, and he made one of his shy noises as I took him to the hilt. He bent over me and planted a soft kiss on the back of my neck, against the strip of skin exposed near the collar of my shirt. Gotta say, he said breathlessly between thrusts, I like it when you say my name. Sounds all posh. It's well nice. Shut up and fuck me. Darian, he laughed, messing up the rhythm and making me buck and twist so impatiently that the antique inkwell Nile had bought me a couple of birthdays ago, and which I'd left languishing on top of the desk, tipped over. A tide of purple ink came rushing down the roll top and drenched me. Do you want me to stop now? Asked Darian. Hell, no, you donut. He was laughing again, his body shaking against mine. I growled at him to pay attention, but then he slithered a hand under my hips and wrapped it round my cock. Complaint lost, I gave a helpless, grateful moan, my palms slipping on ink and smooth wood, unable to find purchase. But he was there to hold me pinned between the twin pleasures of his hand and his cock. It was exactly the right sort of helpless. I writhed in pursuit of both, letting his body and all its lean strength drive away everything but desire and the frantic, undignified scramble after physical release. Whatever the internal mechanism that moderated the human capacity for joy, mine had long been broken beyond repair, and I knew this was a poor substitute, a beige shadow cast on the cave wall, a reflection in a tarnished mirror of ordinary things like happiness, love, and hope. But there were moments, fleeting moments, lost in the responses of my body to his, when it was almost enough. And, I wanted these crumbs of bliss. My nails scratched at the desk, my breath a broken torrent. One of his hands drew back a curl of hair that, heavy with sweat, had fallen across my eyes. It's a white, babes. I twisted my head to the side, feeling the discomfort in my neck and ink pooling beneath my cheek. Kiss me, course. We grazed our mouths against each other in the barest of kisses. It was quite ridiculous. A bruising, graceless, haphazard business, a disorder of breath and a tangle of tongues, into which I drowned a soul-deep groan as I came, and Essex Darian a few seconds after, shoving me hard against the desk, a hand on my shoulder and his mouth slack against mine. Panting, I crumpled onto the floor. Darian sprawled out beside me. My shirt and waistcoat were a ruin of purple ink, my hands worse. My face felt wet, and when I wiped the inside of my wrist across it, I came away with a smeary indigo bracelet. I turned my head and met Darian's wide eyes. You look like you had it off with a Ribena or summin. I stretched luxuriously. It was worth it. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Babes, fuck off, he laughed. I really needed a shower, but I didn't move. My little finger twitched across the space between us until it lay neatly alongside his hand. Is this you trying to cuddle with me? I snatched my errant hand away. No. What? No. Of course not. Come here, I'll make you all purple. He shoved an arm under my shoulders and pulled me over until I landed in an inky splodge against his chest. It rose and fell under my cheek with a steady, endless cycle of his breath. Such a simple thing. See, he said, tracing a purple spiral over the back of my hand. This is why people normally get naked before having sex. No chance, I growled. You did last time. It was well nice, this is this time. Now shut up and stop ruining my afterglow. He was still and quiet for all of 10 seconds. Then he tipped his head back and twisted it this way and that, looking at my study. Have you really read all them books? No, I just like the way they look on the shelves. No, but seriously. Have you? Well, yes, there was a pause. Then he said, I reckon you've gotta be so clever. Yes, I am. Terribly. How'd you find the time? It just comes naturally. Ha ha. No. The books. Oh, I don't know. I was suddenly tired. Not just in the expected physical sense, and it soaked through me like rain. I was tired of talking, tired of thinking, tired of him, and tired of me. I suppose I used to like reading. He nodded, as if this was a perfectly reasonable answer. So what else you into, then? I mean, except reading and writing, talking like the Queen, and dressing like my granddad? I doubt your grandfather frequented Savile Row. Nor, mate, he never left Romford. No, but seriously, what are you into? Well, between reading and writing and talking like the Queen, I don't have a lot of free time. No, but seriously, he said again. It was becoming a plaintive refrain, but what was I supposed to say? That I enjoyed long walks on the beach and occasionally trying to kill myself? Tea, I said desperately. I really like tea. I cringed into him, hardly knowing what kind of response such an answer deserved. Or, you're so right, babes, he said. My Nan loves a good brew. Suddenly I could breathe again. Will you stop comparing me to your grandparents? Or I'm going to think there's something peculiar in your continued interest in sleeping with me. He laughed his heedless, happy idiot laugh. That's something else you can add to the list of things you're into. What? Being like your grandparents? No, you do not. Being with me. I never met anyone who gets into it like you do, trying to make me blush. No, I just like it, is all. He squirmed suddenly, and I peered up into his face. Are you blushing? No. Well, maybe. Thank God for fake bake. I thinned my lips to stop a strange little smile making its escape. I should shower. I peeled myself off him and sat up. My study was, to coin an expression, totally trashed. There was no way on earth I was getting purple ink out of the cream carpet. Want me to come with you? Darian flashed a wicked, white-toothed grin. Yes. Oh yes. I imagined his body, sleek as an otter and glittering with water droplets. The way the muscles of his back would shift like dappling sunlight as I fucked him. Darian's eyes flicked, with no pretense at subtlety, to my cuck. There yeah, then, and then I remembered, the sharp silver nothing of the knife as it glided down my forearm like a tall ship with a scarlet wake. No, it's fine, white, babes, just, make yourself at home. I'll be right back. Chapter 6, After, can I ask you a question? Babes? Showered? Dressed? And only mildly purple? I stepped into the living room to find Darian sprawled out on my sofa like he belonged on it. Did the man have no understanding of the delicate ritual of casual sex? He should have left by now. More disquieting still was the discovery that I was not entirely horrified he had chosen to stay. You just have, I perched, as though I were the interloper here, on the arm of my own sofa. But it gave me a fine view of Darian, stretched out beside me like a veritable invitation to debauchery. His toenails twinkled silver. Ha ha, another question. If you must, do you know your plants are all like, dead? I looked around. As a certified loon, I was always being given plants, and Darian was right. They were all dead. Very dead. I coughed. Oh, yes, I'm the Green Reaper. I bring plants here to make them suffer. You what? Not really. I've been away. Ah, babes, that's well harsh. You should have got your mom to take care of them. Wonderful. I was now obliged to come up with an explanation as to why I hadn't made suitable arrangements for the plants I didn't care about while I was away on the trip I hadn't taken. My parents live in Brockenhurst, I said, which, at least, was not a lie. I could hardly ask my mother to drive 2 hours across the country to water my plants. What the bet you're on? Both my grandmothers are dead. He sat up at once, snaked along the sofa, and wound his arms around me. I was going to pull away, but it would have been undignified, and I liked being touched by him just a little too much to be sensible. That said, my mother's mother killed herself before I was born, and my father's mother passed away when I was 10. Grandparents die. It's what they do. I'm over it. He nuzzled into my shoulder. It was like owning a dog that wouldn't shut up. But there I was, not pushing him away. Don't be like that, babes. It's not nice to talk about people dying like it don't mean nothing. Sorry. God, what was he doing to me? He was pulling me to pieces, and he didn't even realize. I leaned against him, letting the warmth of his body lap at me like waves, letting him hold me as though any of this mattered. And we sat like that for a few minutes, in my unintended sepulcher for forsaken plans and forsaken selves. Of course, it was too good to last. Got end of our question. What now? You even got no food, Eva? Bollocks. No? Seriously? Look. He unwound us, took my hand, and pulled me into the kitchen, flinging wide my fridge door. I pointed at the jar of Branston pickle. That's food. That's a condiment, babes. It is not a condiment. It contains vegetables. Ergo, it's a foodstuff. Anything what you put on in a verfing is a condiment. Well, by that twisted logic, maybe. I started opening and shutting cupboards pretty much at random. Hot, what's that? He peered. WHAS what? This. I pulled out a half-used Merchant Gourmet packet from behind a dusty colander. Darian took it from me and peered inside, then flinched back like I'd handed him a box of alligator feces. It's dead as well, mate. They're not dead. They're porcini mushrooms. They're supposed to be like that. I never seen a flat mushroom. That ain't right. They're dried. You, donut. He kissed me, and it tasted sweet, like his laughing. I boiled the kettle and soaked the mushrooms. We ate them with Branston pickle, sitting on the kitchen floor, and Darian said they were well rank. He was right. I tried to read your other book, he said, when we'd given up on the possibility of food. The one about the smoke being briars or whatever. But I couldn't get into it. Oh, right. My discouraging monosyllables failed to have the desired effect. Well, it weren't about anything. It didn't have a proper beginning or a middle or a end or anything. And I didn't know what was supposed to be happening now, and what had already happened, and what wasn't happening at all. What's with that? I shrugged. In fiction, like life, there's only ever the now. And the boundary between the real and the unreal is simply a matter of perception. Who knew that now better than I? That don't make sense, babes, said Darian Taylor, literary critic. I think you should stick to the other stuff. You're good at that. I rolled my eyes. Genre tat, what? Don't you like it? Well, I suppose it's better than digging a hole. But don't you like it really? He persisted. Writing something to make people appy. I don't really care. Babes. That said, for fuck's sake, I said wearily, stop saying everything is sad. It isn't sad. It's just the way it is. It's my job, not a divine mandate. It's not as though I'd been about to say something about human naivety and the fact we had no fundamental right to happiness or something. But his hand moved over my thigh, fingers brushing my cock through my trousers, and my breath hitched and my thoughts scattered, and I did not warn them. He pushed me back onto the kitchen floor, crawling over me like some mountain cat stalking its prey. Well, he was the same color as one. You don't like nothing about it? He spread his knees on either side of me. Nothing at all. My hips bucked. I just don't see the point of talking about it. I'm just interested or whatever. It's called having a conversation. He caressed my face, light as nothing, sending a strange pleasure. Part anticipation, part frustration, rippling over my skin. I felt like a lake, and his hands were the moon. For fuck's sake, I growled, touch me properly, but seriously, words I was coming to dread. You don't like nuffin? Do we have to do this now? You realize this is blackmail, Essex? Darian still blackmail? He grinned, reached for my cock again, and tightened his hand until my back arched. Yeah, I drew in a ragged breath. If I tell you, will you stop asking questions and what? I like it when you say things, 'cause it sounds posh and filthy at the same time. Make me come out with your hand on my cock. His own gave an appreciative sort of jump. He smiled. Yeah, reckon you could read the phone book and make it dirty. I ran my hands up the inside of his splayed, denim-coated thighs, wishing it was skin beneath my palms. This is the news at 10, I whispered. Politicians are predicting hard times ahead. It was a pathetic attempt at humor, but he threw back his head and laughed. I stared at the strong, clean line of this throat. All white, then, he said, fingers curling over the head of my cock while I squirmed. All right, I said. I like that I can make it neat. Okay, he rewarded me with a long, languorous stroke. What's that mean? I closed my eyes, trying to pretend I lived in a universe that contained only my cock in his hand, and lazy pleasure that spilled eternally in silver spirals. Well, there's always an answer. Everything always makes sense, and can be fixed. Oh, yeah, he said. I ain't thought of that. It's well deep, that's all detective fiction is, I said, while his hand moved in a sweet, tormenting rhythm and I twisted to meet it. A control fantasy in a world where everything is meaningless. Lots of things have meaning, babes. And, sometimes, when you think maybe they doesn't, it's just 'cause you aren't looking for the same sort of meaning. God help me. I'm being wanked off by Yoda. Ha ha. Wanking the way to the dark side is, shut up. For the love of Jesus fucking Christ on a moose, shut up. I'm trying to get off here. He fell on top of me, howling with laughter. And, somehow, in that ridiculous tangle, his hand moving awkwardly against my cock as he snuffled hysterically against my ear, and me yelling at him, my body shaking with frustration, amusement, pleasure, bewilderment, so much bewilderment. I did, in fact, get off. And after, it was long past midnight by the time I convinced Darian that his proper place was in the guest room, not my bed, and that because I don't do that was the only explanation he was getting for the arrangement. What about Brighton then? He asked, hovering on the threshold as if he believed this was a negotiation. An accident. I ignored his big, wounded eyes and retired for the night. But of course, I couldn't sleep. I found myself wondering what it would be like to have him here with me. The sleek warmth of his body curled protectively about mine. My thoughts circled like vultures. Non-specific anxiety clawed at me. I felt too hot, too cold, too trapped, too lonely, tired and cruelly awake. The night was a vast plug hole, an endless spinning of the self through ever-narrowing circles. It had been, don't say it, don't spoil it, a good day. I tried to rationalize it as the result of physical satisfaction, but, in other more abstract ways, I had, almost without noticing, been something close to happy. My heart stuttered. There was little I feared more than happiness, that faithless whore who waited always between madness and emptiness. My moods, when they were not sodden with medication, could turn upon a tarnished penny. Happiness was merely something else to lose. Words and images drifted through my thoughts, catching at me like briars, fading into smoke. This wasn't safe. My world was one of only broken images, like I was standing always on the threshold of a mirror, unable to tell the reflection from the real, the shining city and the blasted heat. The truth lay somewhere between, a thin gray line, slender as the edge of a knife. And I'd known this mirage before. These shimmering moments, but they each had their price that must be paid. Looking back brought little comfort, only pain. The memory of light only made the present seem darker side. This would hurt on the other side. Because it always hurt on the other, I should protect myself. I wished I could sleep. I wished I could stop thinking, but my mind has always been its own enemy.
Chapter 7. Morning. Somewhere in the grayness of dawn, I drifted into a dream-studded semblance of slumber, only to be woken a scant handful of hours later by the unfamiliar sounds of somebody moving around the flat. My first, drowsy thought was that a burglar was using my shower, and then I remembered. Darian. I buried down into the duvet and grimly attempted to force myself back to sleep in the hope he would have left by the time I woke up again. Unfortunately, the endeavor was not a success, and I was left with no choice but to get up. I nodded myself firmly into my dressing gown and padded into the kitchen, where Darian was eating a bowl of Weetabix and reading Heat magazine. He looked repulsively cheerful for someone on the wrong side of noon. His hair was a marvel of engineering, shaming even the quiff I had witnessed in Brighton. His jeans were very tight, as was his t-shirt, which was black and had the words "Show Love" written on it in silver, hard-to-read letters. His shoes were exceptionally pointy. "Morning, babes," he said. "I had to go to the corner shop 'cause you 'ad nothing." And guess what? I blinked. What? Look in the sink. I looked in the sink. There was a dead plant sitting in a sort of water bath. "I think we can save her. The rest 'ave at it, though." Great. Well done. It's like a horror movie or somethin', in it. Pardon. She's the only one to get out alive. Do you reckon she's like a plant cheerleader or somethin'? I thought the cheerleader always died first. Maybe. I dunno. I don't really like horror, to be honest with you. Like you're watching an EV, you're not scared, so what's the point? Or you are scared and then you're like, scared. Do you know what I mean? This was all a bit much first thing in the morning. "I think so," I said dubiously. "Kettle's boiled, by the way," he pointed helpfully, in case I had somehow forgotten the location of my own damn kettle. "Milk in the fridge." Oh, relief. "Tea?" I was just pouring myself a cup, when suddenly there was an excitable Darian behind me, nosing into my neck, while his hand swooped about my person. "What are you wearing, babes?" His voice struck me as unduly incredulous for a man with a huge pewter ankh hanging round his neck. "Gentleman's sleeping attire." He turned me away from my tea, a dangerous action if there ever was one. I opened my mouth to complain, but then he stroked my purple silk lapels. "That dressing gown, babes," he said, at last, "is love. And I never seen pinstripe pajamas before. Are they, love? I think they're just a bit weird. I mean, what's this pocket for? Carrying your teddy bear? I don't know, pockets are useful, but why'd you need 3 in a pair of PJs? Seriously, babes, you go to bed in more clothes than I wear going out. Are you quite done? Herr Lagerfeld." He kissed my nose. "You're so funny, babes. Thanks for letting me stay. Thanks for getting me off." He laughed. "Any time. So, I've got this meeting thing with the modeling agency today, and then it's back on 'cause Nan's expecting me. Unless maybe you wanted." Yes. I'd spoken before I had even had time to frame the thought. And 10 seconds later, he was phoning his grandmother to let her know he'd be staying another night in London. What had I done? I sat down at the table, sipping my tea while Darian babbled happily into his phone. "Yeah, gonna crash with a mate." "No. You don't know him." "No, he's not an axe-murderer or anything. I can just tell." Yeah, that's a good thought. But if he was, right, he'd have already axe-murdered me. Yeah, he's nice. He's well posh. You should hear him. I had a terrible split-second too late premonition of what was about to happen. And, despite my frantic "fuck no, don't you dare" gesticulations, he shoved his phone at me, explaining cheerfully that I should say hello to Nanny. My mouth fell open but no words came out. I gripped his phone in frozen terror as if he'd handed me a live grenade. He grinned encouragingly, and I shot him a betrayed look. which seemed to make no impression on him whatsoever. "Good morning, Darian's grandmother," I said. He's right," she said. "You do sound lovely. You can call me Dot." "Thank you. What's your name?" "Young man, my friends call me Ash." "That is nice." "How are you, Ash? Is our Darian behaving himself?" "I am quite well, thank you." "And yes, he's a model house guest. I particularly enjoy the way he fucks me." "He's welcome to stay. Anytime. You two be good." Yes, we will." "It was very nice talking to you, Dot. Goodbye." I passed the phone back to Darian, with great relief. He chatted a bit longer and then hung up. "I think I hate you," I said. He bounced over and kissed me until I was moaning into his mouth and clutching great handfuls of show love. Finally, he drew back. "Maybe I don't hate you," he grinned. I'll be back later, but I'm not gonna eat more of them dead mushrooms. We can order in. When we're not fucking, AUDIOBOOK, babes. You got it all planned out. You're so romantic. You're unbearable in the morning, you know that." He did not look remotely chastened. "I'll cook something nice," he went on, and thrust what appeared to be a crumpled train ticket into my hands. "But you'll have to pick some things up for me. You need me to pick up the 1519 from Basildon. Turn it over. Donut. This is a shopping list." "Darian, I do not do shopping." "What? Never." "Well, sometimes, on the internet." When it can't be avoided, he propped his hips against the edge of my table. God, they look good in those exceptionally clinging jeans. "I'll bet just this once," he said, with what I'm sure he imagined to be a winning look. "No." He fluttered his lashes. He actually fluttered his lashes. "I'll make it up to you, babes." "Oh, will you now?" "Yeah, you know, for somebody who made such a fuss about being treated like a gentleman of the night, you're remarkably eager to use sex to get what you want. Ha, gentleman of the night. Like it. But who said anything about sex? That was your mind in the gutter, mate. We are all of us in the gutter, but some of us are enjoying ourselves down there. What, nothing? Do we have a deal, that you go shopping and I do anything you want? That don't seem very fair." "Well, I don't like going shopping," he frowned. "You won't," he asked, in a small voice, "make me do anything embarrassing or anything, will you?" "God, no. I promise." He cheered almost instantly. Then, he tapped the train ticket I was still clutching. "So, you need to get everything on the list. And make a salad to go with it." "Wait, what? You didn't say anything about a salad." "Later, babes." Chapter 8. Panic. I dashed to the internet to see if any of the local supermarkets had a slot open for same-day delivery. They didn't. Shit. Fuck. Wank. I was going to have to leave the house. Interact with people. Make a salad? I could cope fine, thank you, as long as I had time to prepare. As long as I knew where I was going, what I was doing, what would be expected of me, and how much energy it would take. I needed to plan. Assess the danger. Break the whole activity down into safe, manageable chunks so that the enormity and unpredictability of what lay ahead didn't overwhelm me. Go shopping. It was a minefield of potential disaster. I stared at my phone and thought about calling Niall, despising the way normal things could make me feel so utterly helpless. Self-pity. Such an attractive quality. But it was so miserably unfair. Whatever I did, no matter how hard I tried to pretend otherwise, there was no respite from my limitations. I was my own cage. And I hated it. Hated myself. I put the list down on the kitchen table and carefully scrutinized it. Carrots, garlic, mince. And that was only the beginning. Arg. So many things heedlessly demanded in his careful, round writing. I would be shopping forever. Assuming I didn't have a nervous breakdown in Sainsbury's, which wasn't as remote a possibility as I would have liked. I considered which scraps of my self-respect I could bear to sacrifice. Niall would help me. Even after everything. Because he always did. and I would inevitably resent him for it. At first, gratitude felt like love. Now it felt like swallowing razor blades. And today I couldn't even bring myself to ask. I wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a bad one. Pride, like happiness, was something a madman could ill afford. Clearly, I was going to fail this very simple task. Which left me wondering how to present it to Essex. "Hi, Darian. Sorry, but I'm afraid you're shagging a mental who occasionally lacks the confidence to leave his own house. Still fancy me now?" That was out of the question. Absolutely out of the question. The sex was reason enough on its own to avoid ruining everything. But somehow, like a fool, I'd come to like Darian's insistent questions and the way he spoke to me and looked at me. As if he thought I was fascinating and impressive. I'd felt the very opposite of those things for so long I could barely remember what it was like to think otherwise. And I couldn't lose it. Not yet, anyway. Not so soon. So that would mean lying to his face. Which I was, I realized with only a minor internal wince at my own perfidy, perfectly prepared to do. I just had to make sure it was plausible. Except, he would be disappointed. And I did not want him to be disappointed. Oh, no. I couldn't afford to tangle myself up in other people's expectations and inevitable disappointment. It would be awful. An ever-expanding cycle of everyone feeling bad, like a bulimic serpent eating its own tail. I'd been through it with my parents, with Niall, with nearly everyone I've ever known. I'd fuck up and let them down. They'd feel sad, I'd feel sad. They'd feel sad for making me feel sad, and so on, and so on, and so on. As if I didn't bear enough frustration and regret on my own account, without also feeling guilty for hurting the people who loved me. Once upon a time, I too dreamed different dreams. My horizon was bolder and grander and more beautiful than the threshold of my own fucking flat. And now I lived in a world so narrow and so colorless that getting out of bed in the morning was a victory. That not actively wanting to die was happiness. Fuck it all. I was going shopping. I was going to buy carrots. And it was not going to be a big deal. That just left the salad problem. I opened up Google and stared blankly at the search box. With nothing to lose, I typed in how to make a very easy salad in order to impress a man you want to fuck. It was unhelpful. The first hit was complete tat. The second was a list of 14 things every guy should apparently know how to cook, but none of them were a salad, and the third was an article on how to tell if a man was gay. I was moderately certain Darian was gay. Fucking me had been a fairly subtle clue, but I was onto him. It seemed I'd found the one thing that wasn't on the internet. I rang Amy. "I have to go shopping and make a salad. My God. Call the police." "No, but seriously. When did I say no? But seriously, how the fuck do you make a salad?" "Oh, I know this one," she said. "You go to Marks and Spencer, and they have them there in little plastic tubs. You buy as many as you need, take them home, put them in a bowl, and shout ta-da." That sounded almost doable except for the Marks and Spencer part. There was probably one nearby, because this was London, but it might involve the tube. And I certainly wasn't up for that at short notice. "I can maybe get to a Sainsbury's," I offered. She thought about it a moment. "Then you're fucked, right?" There was a pause. "Ash," she asked, "did you ring me because I'm the only person with a vagina you know?" Because, you know you don't need a vagina to prepare a salad, right? In fact, I have it on good authority that there are salads prepared sans vaginas all the time. Can you stop saying vagina over and over again? It's scaring me. It serves you right for being sexist. Vagina. Even in spite of Saladgate, I felt a smile threatening at the corner of my lips. "Isn't it just possible," I said, "that I rang you because you're a brilliantly clever and generous person, with a vagina, who I knew would be able to help me in my hour of need?" "No, you're probably right, but, you know," she said, "you should try Max. He's a kitchen ninja. He'd love to help." I flinched a bit. "I'll work something out." "No, I mean it. Ring Max. This is totally his speciality." "Yes, but, anyway, sweetheart, I have to dash." I'm late for a meeting. The next matinee. You know how it is. Mwah. Ring Max, she said. As if it were simple. As if I could just pick up the phone and talk to him. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen him other than as part of a larger group, or the last time we'd had anything like a conversation. Perhaps we'd been closer at university, but I'd lost so much of that time due to an extravagant combination of recreational drugs, mania, and electroconvulsive therapy. A title for my autobiography, possibly. Or an epitaph. The ECT had sort of worked, but it had fucked my memory inside out and upside down. Nearly everything had come back, in time, but it had left my life a jigsaw. I had the pieces, but I didn't know what the picture was supposed to be. University and its immediate aftermath were little more than a sensory haze. A blur of gold and green, the scent of old books, the slide of a stranger's body against mine. Rushes of chemical rapture. The heat of a nightclub, a sweep of lights, like a peacock's tail, bodies and heartbeats and music. I was king of a glittering world, a splintering, falling, shattering world. But what of Max? What could I remember of Max? Patrician good looks and a self-deprecating smile. Cricket whites for dreamy afternoons. Punting and a Panama hat in the full golden gleam of summer. And, in winter, a wine-red scarf by an Italian designer so exclusive even I hadn't heard of him. I think Max used to let me bury my hands in it on cold days. My skin, at least, remembered the softness. Like a kiss from a ghost. It's quite an accomplishment to outprivilege me, but Max, the youngest son of an American heiress and an English viscount, was the sort of person who had no right to exist outside of Sunday night costume dramas and the novels of Evelyn Waugh. If there was any justice in the world, he would be profoundly unlikable, or at the very least ugly, but, somehow, he wasn't. Imagine, if you would, the sincerity of an American coupled with the self-irony of the English, wrapped in the body of a Greek god. The bisexuality, we must assume, was simply a gift from the universe. Leaving university with an effortlessly acquired first, he went on to effortlessly found a culture consultancy firm, which had been effortlessly successful, even in the middle of the recession. I wasn't sure what he actually did. Extremely wealthy companies hired him to improve their corporate culture. This seemed to involve Max telling them to buy fruit for their employees and then they'd give him millions and millions of pounds. It was no wonder I was so reluctant to parade my endless inadequacies in front of him. Not that he hadn't seen them all already. But there was something implacably blessed about Max. He was practically a mutant and his mutation was being better than you at everything. I didn't even know he liked cooking. No surprise that he was apparently excellent at it. I rang him. What else was I to do? Ash. Hi. He sounded genuinely thrilled. He usually did. Talking to Max could make you feel like the most important person in the whole world. It was a heady drug. And y'all's prescription of choice. So glad to hear from you. He rushed on. It's been, forever. Excuse me a moment. The line crackled and I heard him talking to someone else. He seemed to be telling them where to put some fruit. I snuffled in private hilarity and tried to pass it off as a throat clearing as he came back onto the line. I'm here. How are you? I'm all right. Oh, white, actually. How about you? Going out of my tiny mind over the wedding. It's an absolute mare. My mother's family are outraged it can't be held in Buckingham Palace. My father's family hate my mother's family. Amy's family think we were all insane and want to go back to Yorkshire. And I'm petrified they're not going to allow their only daughter to marry me after all. But, amusement colored his voice other than that, everything's fabulous, 66-0. It'll be fine, I said. You're filthy rich. They'll probably just have you murdered on your wedding night. That's reassuring, Ta. I read your latest, by the way. Absolutely loved it. I totally didn't see the twist, because I'm an idiot, but when I thought back, it made perfect sense. I'm quite proud of the title, I heard myself saying, because his name is Rick Glass, right, and the title is Through a Glass Darkly, which is an Annie Lennox song. And also in the Bible, there was a moment of silence, And then Max gave a snort of upper-class laughter. Anyway, I went on before I ran out of stupid things to say that could be generously interpreted as my dry, ironic wit. I sort of need your help. He didn't hesitate. Of course, Ash. What can I do? Shit. How to start? There's this guy who I'm, well, shagging. I guess. That's great. Yes. I quite enjoy it. Anyway, I sort of, yeah. It's complicated. I could almost hear him frowning, golden brows sliding into intent little versus look. I said, quickly, I need to make a salad. How do I do that? Max spluttered. God, he said, is that all? I was braced for absolute disaster. Married man, BNP supporter, classic case, accountant. Not salad eater. Oh, fuck off. You know I don't cook. Now are you going to help or not? Of course I'm going to help. It has to be an impressive salad, I explained. A really impressive salad. Oh, I see. You need a let's do it on the kitchen table right now salad. They have those. Abso-fucking-lutely they do. Well, I said impatiently, hit me up. But remember I'm a salad neophyte. I'm not faffing around with pans or any complicated shit like that. Damn, you're a difficult man to please. I didn't quite know how to answer that. All right, he continued. How about pear and roquefort with a honey and ginger dressing? That's a sex salad, is it? Because, to me, blue cheese does not scream passion. But, I added, with a play of reluctance, I suppose I'll have to trust you. It's a salad. It doesn't need a safe word. I'll send you the details. Also, we should go for a coffee. Yes, we should. This was how all of our conversations ended, with vague intentions and abstract good wishes. There was a pause. Ash, Max said, with a trace of hesitation I was unused to hearing in his voice. Why do you always give me the brush off? I said yes, didn't I? In a never getting round to it way. I mean, you don't have to. I can be your long-distance salad guru. But I miss you. I shuffled uncomfortably. I was half convinced the reason I'd managed to retain whatever good opinion Max had of me was through the judicious application of distance. What if I'm shit company? I said, as though it was a very self-deprecating joke. What if I'm shit company? He paused and then, half jesting, half sincere, added, am I shit company? Is that why you've been avoiding me? I sighed. I'm a misanthropic, clinically anxious, bipolar lunatic. I avoid everybody. Lies. You see Amy all the time. I work with Amy. Oh, so that's why she's entitled to misanthropic, clinically anxious, bipolar lunatic action despite the fact that some of us, it could be argued, have prior claim and should, therefore, be first in the queue. There's a queue. Yes, it's me. Max I just don't. I'm just not. I trailed off. What could I tell him? I'm so much less than I used to be. Seeing you reminds me. Fine, he said. Fine. If it has to be professional, then so be it. I shall come and consult with you about improving your corporate culture. Over coffee, I gave a helpless, unexpected laugh. I've got enough fruit. Thanks. I bet you don't. I actually bet you don't. I bet you don't have a single piece of fruit in your whole house. Darling, I'm the fruit, and while he was chuckling, I went on hastily. Anyway, I'd better see about this salad. Bye, and I hung up on him, like the selfish coward I was. A few minutes later, my phone bleeped. True to his word, Max had emailed me salad ingredients and instructions. It seemed just about within my capabilities. On a good day, I could do this. Chapter 9, later. You right, babes, said Darian as I led him inside. Yes, I'm fine, I said with impressive nonchalance. How'd it go? Think I did good. I think they thought I was a bit beef a party boy though, and I don't think Orange has quite the same play in the international marketplace. He grinned, unabashed. Leave it AHT. Did you get everything? Of course. Come here. He kissed the smug right off my lips, like a cat licking cream. And I led him, smiling against his mouth, leaning into him only a little, as if today had been nothing at all. As if everything had always been all right before. Don't panic. Don't panic. Breathe. It's fine. It's fine. God, have these places always been so bright? Is it hot in here? I was suffocating on light, lost in a maze of wire and geometry. The aisles were radiating away from me, endless, wide and bright and silver, like a three-dimensional crossword puzzle, white space and a black abyss, and nothing, and nothing, and nothing. People roaring past me like cars down a motorway, their eyes like headlights, glaring through me. Thundering away in a rush of feet and a swoosh of breath. Strangers, and the loudness of their living, battering me on all sides, the whole world, crashing too loud, too bright against me. Wire-crowned waves, scraping my skin, fingernails in my eyes. Why can't I find anything? A fucking carrot, where are the fucking carrots? Why was this simple thing impossible? Breathe. It's fine. Breathe. Fuck it. Breathe. Fucking basic. Okay, just rest. It's fine. Just stare at this row of olives. Nobody is looking. Nobody knows. Heart racing like a rabbit. Half-dried sweat seared my palms. But nobody knew. That's all that mattered. My sweaty, fearful little world, population, me. The pit of my stomach, where terror gathered, a cold iron snake coiled around my heart. I think I hated everything. All my words were whirling away into animal panic, thick as mud. This wild awareness of too much that was its own dislocation. Its own separation. Reality was peeling like a grape. I think I could hear my synapses. Where are the fucking carrots? After, so what is this culinary masterpiece? I asked, following Darian into the kitchen. Well, Greg, said Darian, tonight Darian Taylor will be preparing a menu of his nanny Dot's cottage pie with, well, that's it, actually. What? Who the fuck is Greg? The fat one with the dimples off MasterChef. I do not watch MasterChef. Ah, babes, you're missing out big time. It's Amazon. The stuff they make on there, Amazon. And there's this voiceover what's all like. He dropped his voice into a loper. Barry has prepared a filet of poutine with a glazed salmon juice, pan-seared gills, celeriac mash, and a basil and honey cream glaze. And, mate, I gotta say I don't know what they're on about half the time, but I feel like I really wanna know. Jannar, what I mean, I do know that if you try to pan-sear my gills, I'll be throwing you out. He laughed. But, yeah, you should totally watch it, babes. Just not the celebrity version, cause that's rubbish, cause they can't cook. And it's always like MC Hammer's made beans on toast and you're sitting at home thinking like, oi, I can do that, thank you very much. It's on my to-do list, I said. Right after stick a fork in my eye. Darian dumped a large, leather-bound book onto my kitchen table and started rummaging through the Sainsbury's bags I'd left on the counter because I hadn't been able to face unpacking them. The orange plastic had kept glaring at me like it was mocking me for having nearly succumbed to a panic attack in a supermarket. The too fresh memory of those striply, labyrinthine aisles seared my mind like acid. You wanna look? Said Darian over his shoulder. I snapped back to the present, safe in my own flat. Pardon, he gestured at the book. It's my portfolio, innit? Wanna look? Not really. I wanted him to do his cooking so we could fuck, and I could forget everything in fleeting, physical pleasure. Do you want me to? Course. I suppressed a sigh, pulled his portfolio towards me, and flipped it open. Darian's face, starkly, shockingly beautiful in its artificial stillness, gleamed up at me. His hair was platinum blonde, his eyes a deep and steady gray. The generous mouth was stripped of its mirth, though not its sensuality. It was Darian, but not Darian. Some quintessence of Darian, laid bare by the photographer's art. Loveliness refined like a sharpened blade. He'd come to stand behind me as I stared. What'd I think? I cleared my throat. You? Yes. You're certainly photogenic, haha. You just take millions of them. Bound to be one or two what don't make you look a right minger. I turned the pages. His profile, a smile, a couple of fashion shoots, followed by an advertisement for a local college with the slogan "Stand Out, Be Yourself," which seemed to involve Darian jumping in the air, mostly naked, through a splash of multicolored paint. "I would certainly enroll," I said. The pose, the tension in his uplifted arms and outstretched legs, had brought into definition all the sleek muscles I had felt shaking against me while we fucked. I was scrubbing paint from places where it had no right being for days after. "Why would you do that? I couldn't just leave it up there, babes. It's probably like toxic or something." "No, I mean," I tapped the page. "Why this?" He shrugged. "'Cause it's the job." "Yes, but it's not really a job, is it? It's more of a trailed away." "More of what?" he asked. "An aspiration. A hobby?" "I don't know." I felt the sudden stillness of his body and my voice. He gave me a look I couldn't quite read. A faint creasing of the brows, a certain turn of the lips. "I think that's a bit of order," he said. "Finally. Maybe it ain't a job to you, but I like it and I get paid. So I reckon that makes it a job to me." "Yes, but what about the future?" "I mean, it's hardly a career, is it?" "Oh fuck." I sounded like my mother. Not that she would say something like that to me. Everyone had loved her when she'd come to visit me in hospital. Every week, without fail. So delicate in her pearls and her tap-tapping heels, her voice as soft and resolute as water. For the last 28 years, she had been unfailingly kind to her wayward, broken, disappointing son. "I don't think I want a career, babes," said Darian comfortably. "Can you really see me in an office, being all a white mark, photocopiers done again, and anyway," he added, "it ain't up to you." "No, you're right." There was a long silence. "You gonna say sorry or something?" he asked. Why?" "For acting like I'm some sort of skiver." "I'm sorry," I said, because it was easier than arguing about it. How had I allowed myself to get dragged into this? I didn't care what Darian did with his life. But my attempt at an apology sounded so ungracious even to me that I found myself adding, "You're clearly very good at what you do." He looked mollified. "Thanks, babes." After a moment, he went on, "I'm not gonna let my nan starve or nothing. I do other things as well when I have to, but I reckon I won't have to if I get an agent in London. Already got one in Essex, but I'm thinking big. You know what I mean? It worked for David Gandy," I said, with a faint, insincere smile. He laughed. "I said I was thinking big, not like totally massive. I'm never gonna be a high fashion model or nothing like that. I haven't got the body for it. But I think if I try really hard, I'll do it white." "I'm sure you will." I turned the page. I flipped past a couple more fashion shoots. It was disconcerting to see Darian dressed to someone else's specifications, as if he had somehow become the reflection of a different image. One picture showed him crouching a little coyly on a cobbled street in his ubiquitous skinny jeans and a V-neck sweater vest one shade bluer than his eyes. The sleeves of the undershirt were rolled up to his elbows, and he was wearing a bow tie that I presumed was meant to be quirky or otherwise ironic, a pair of red Vans, and a trilby. He looked adorably, if incongruously, preppy, and I suddenly realized how well he had arranged his body to display the clothes he was wearing. "My mate Chloe," he said proudly. "She's a designer. Got her own shop now and everything. She's well clever. Loves clothes. Don't think geek chic is really me, though. I do prefer you with your clothes off." I agreed. He leaned forward and flipped over the final page. I drew in a sharp breath. "I thought I'd better do some in arty," he said. "Just in case or somein." His portfolio ended on a couple of black and white nudes. I gazed, entranced, at the way the light shimmered on his naked skin, drawing the eye into the shadowy secrets of his flesh. "You look like Rodin's Danade," I whispered, unable to resist tracing the curve of his spine with my fingertip. "You what? But a man, obviously," I added quickly. He pulled out his phone and Googled. "I'm glad you said that, babes, 'cause I know I haven't got a six-pack but I don't have moobs neither." 29 It's the juxtaposition of submission and sensuality, He gave a slightly self-conscious laugh. You like it? Yeah. Yes. It's beautiful. The other photograph was slightly more conventional. Darian leaned back on his hands, one he raised for the sake of modesty. It showed the lean, strong muscles of his thighs and arms, the ripple of his abdomen, the vulnerability of his exposed throat. They both are. You're staring at him like you stared at me in Brighton, he said. Don't go making me jealous of me, babes. My head'll explode. I was jealous of the camera. The one-eyed monster that had pinned him in its possessing gaze. What were you thinking? I asked. Lots of things, babes. I was thinking about how to make it look right, 'cause it takes a lot of thinking to picture someone when you can't see it properly 'cause it's you. And I was thinking how, my back. He grinned down at me, his foolish pirate grin, and I was suddenly sure he was, if not lying, at least eluding me. Not that I had any right to complain about that. Lying was my last unsullied talent. Then Darian's hand slipped past mine, a swift, insubstantial brush of skin, as he detached the page and handed it to me. Go on, you can have it, babes, he said. I stammered something along the lines that I couldn't possibly. But you like it, he said, shrugging. And I like thinking of you looking at me like that when I'm not errand. But, your portfolio, I got others, babes. And I done more commercial stuff now anyway. I stole another glance at my photograph. The sick flood of jealousy was receding now. And, instead, I felt oddly moved by the notion that some stranger, looking with a stranger's eyes, had seen Darian as I did, had caught a moment of his beauty beyond the inadequacies and uncertainties of memory. Besides, he added, I think you like me better like this. Not talking and with my bum in the air. He surprised a laugh out of me, the sound ricocheting off my kitchen walls like a bullet. You're right, I lied. He cackled. Slated. Now come here and say thank you properly. I twisted round and kissed him. Thank you. I'll treasure it, or try to. Until my next depression convinced me that everything I valued was worthless and I destroyed whatever I could that used to matter to me. I was the climber of a sheer cliff, dragging myself on bleeding hands towards a summit that I'd never reach and sometimes didn't want to reach. The things I cared about were the hooks I'd driven into the rock face. Depression snapped them, one by one, one by one. My only certainty was the fall. Perhaps I should have told him, don't trust me with anything precious. But I wanted what he had given me too much to be anything other than selfish. Darian left me with his portfolio and went back to unpacking. You gonna help, babes? It took me a moment to shake myself free of sentimentality. Not in the slightest. I'm going to sit here, do the Times crossword, and occasionally divert myself by leering at your arse, he tsked, and wriggled. And I had to hide a smile on my palm. Well, white, he said. You can get away with it this once, 'cause you did all the shopping. But I'm gonna need some music. I nodded towards the iPod dock, and he turned it on, filling the kitchen with one of Bach's cello suites. He hastily turned it off again. Not what I had in mind. I glanced up from the Times. Not to your taste. Nah, it's not that, babes. It's just I don't want to be crying on the floor when I'm trying to cook my nan's cottage pie. Are you like allergic to fun or something? Yes, I'm in a program. I have my 5-year token. He gave me a look I couldn't quite read, before swapping my iPod with his. A pounding remix of F-Can Perfect burst out of the speakers. I love this tune. I couldn't help watching him as he B-sided it up all over my kitchen, one hand in the air, hips slithering about like a pair of snakes in a bag, as he hummed along, paying only passing tribute to the tune. It was frankly, well, it was just the slightest bit charming. I put my head in my hands. Come on, babes. Hell, no, why not? Too many reasons to articulate, but let's start with, I'm English, I have some self-respect left to me, and we're in my kitchen, not a heart warming American sitcom where people do that sort of shit because they are quirky and free-spirited. Also, I need decent quantities of drugs and/or alcohol to even contemplate getting down with my bad self. He shook his head. I don't get it. What's to get? They make you feel good. I'm like, he put his fingertips together, forming a little square. Seriously, don't reckon my nan would like it. Your nan isn't the one getting blatted, he shrugged. But when I'm dancing, it's like how you are when you're, a touch of color gleamed beneath his tan. When you're with me, but except with the music. That feeling. You know, I think I'll stick to fucking. Since, at the very least, I'm not expected to perform that in a room full of strangers. He laughed and turned back to cooking, body still moving a little in time to the music. So, what did you do today? He asked, chopping away. Well, Darian, I spent the morning fretting about going shopping, the early afternoon psyching myself up to go shopping, and the rest of the afternoon nearly having a humiliating panic attack in the middle of Sainsbury's. That left me just enough time to put myself back together and de-lunatic my flat for your arrival. Oh, this and that, I said aloud, which was sufficiently discouraging that even Darian didn't press it. Babes, he said in a bit, what you buy 3 garlics for? You said to buy 3 garlics, laughing. Again. 3 bits, you donut. You trying to catch a vampire or something? I'm trying, I said frostily, to solve 7 across. D'you want a hand? 29 I sighed to demonstrate I was put upon before I read. Nose and eyes, from what we hear, often indicated by hands, 5 letters, 669 ain't a clue, he said, at last. That don't even make no sense. It's votes, I said, scribbling it in. You what? Yes, well, from what we hear usually means sounds like. Nose and eyes. Sounds like nose and eyes, you know, and no, and voting can be calculated by raising hands. So it's votes. Oh, yeah, he said, nodding. Wait, what am I saying? I'd never thought of that in like a million years. You're so clever, babes. I cleared my throat. He'd said he thought I was clever before. I'm clever mad, but I don't know why it suddenly made me uncomfortable. It's just about learning the tricks, I said, awkwardly. Once you know how they're put together, you can solve them. It's got very little to do with being clever. Want to try another? Yeah, White, how about this? 5 down. Honestly. No, otherwise, 2, 3, 3. I don't like it when they're more than one word. I think that's cheating. They're only small words. It's probably a phrase, something a bit colloquial. No idea, babes. Don't even know how to start, to be honest with you. Well, otherwise usually means you need to rearrange some letters. So the keyword is honestly, but Noah's telling you it means the opposite. I feel like my head's gonna fall off. It's on the sly. What? He turned, wooden spatula in hand, and narrowed his eyes to shining blue-gray slivers. Are you making this up? No. On the sly. It's an anagram of honestly, meaning the opposite. He shook his head, throwing mince into a frying pan full of browning vegetables. Is this what you're into then? Messing about with words and that. It's just a habit, really. Not much else to do. I stopped in sudden horror. I'd been about to say in hospital, gray days, carefully ordering and disordering the meanings of things, putting down the letters one by one, like a bricklayer. At university I couldn't wait to get done with school. Me. 3 more years. Couldn't be doing with that. I was like, he performed a gesture I thought was meant to signify a 16-year-old Darian telling the British education system to talk to the hand. No thanks. 66 I had no conscious memory of putting the crossword down. But, somehow, I had. I was just sitting there foolishly, talking to Darian while he performed his haphazard alchemy at the stove. There had been nothing like this in my kitchen, and for that matter my life, since Nile, and possibly not even then. I think he'd resented cooking as much as I did, but if he hadn't provided food, then we would not have eaten. I propped my chin on my hand. Oxford was the best time of my life. I was 18 and full of hope. I was going to change the fucking world, with doing crosswords and eating beans out of the tin. Darian had his back to me, preoccupied with a pan of boiling potatoes, but somehow I knew he was grinning. I never ate beans out of the tin. I was in my prime. Yeah, 'Cause now you're all crusty and past it and like, I remember when all this was grass. Where's my shopping trolley on little wheels? What are you, like 25? I'm 28. Man. Your life is over. He swept over with a block of cheese, a plate, and a grater and plunked them down in front of me. Might as well make yourself useful. I drew back. Oh no, I do not do manual labor, babes. Manual labor is like pulling a plow or stacking shelves down the Costco's. That's grating cheese. I sighed and picked up the grater without further protest. How much? Weddy blinked at me. How much cheese do you want? Grated all of it. Duh. He flitted off to drain his potatoes. So, what else you do at university? Or was it all crosswords and Scrabble parties, with the beans served under 'em silver dome things? Actually, I was my college Scrabble champion. Really. He gave me an impressed look over his shoulder. Is that 'cause you're all good with words and stuff? I grated doggedly. It was totally manual labor. And since when did I say totally? On the contrary, it's because I'm quite good at maths. Scrabble isn't a game about letters, it's a game about numbers. There's no poetry in it at all. If you're looking to make beautiful words, you're looking to lose. Well, what with it being a game, maybe I'd be looking to have fun or something crazy like that. He came back, took the grater from my inept hands, and finished the job himself in about 2 vigorous seconds. I somehow managed not to comment. Crazy, I agreed. Out of nowhere, I wanted to kiss his wrists, like I had in Brighton. He mixed the cheese, all of the cheese, enough for a heart attack, into the mash and began layering it onto a baking dish full of mince and vegetables. Finally, he gave the whole thing a vigorous scattering of salt and pepper, and bumped it into the oven. Oh no, he gave himself a little smack on the forehead. Forgot to take the leaf thing out, didn't I? What am I like? Just don't eat it by accident, but white. It tastes well rank. I think I can just about manage not to eat a bay leaf. It's easy done, babes. Especially if you're distracted. I raised my brows at him. Why, what are you going to be doing to me while I'm eating? He gave one of his little gasps. You're so rude. At first I'd thought his shocked reactions were a form of flirtation, some sort of heavy-handed Essex irony, but now I wasn't so sure. Innocence was not a word for the 21st century. Nor did it seem the natural quality of so glittering a creature. I thought about asking him, but I stopped myself. He wasn't here to satisfy my idle curiosities. And it held its own fascinations, a man who talked like an innocent and felt like a sybarite. Later, he served up his nanny Dot's cottage pie, and I presented my salad. Babes. He peered into the bowl. What's all this? It's pear and Roquefort, I said, with an airy wave. I was maybe thinking some lettuce and tomatoes. This is proper Master Chef. Truthfully, it didn't go. Not even a little bit. The cottage pie was about as wholesome and straightforward as you could get. It was food for winter evenings and happy days. And the salad was rich, complicated, a little bit sweet, a little bit sharp, and seemed to be trying way too hard to be impressive. We'd both served each other a metaphor. Fan-bloody-tastic. If Darian noticed I couldn't have served a less suitable salad if I'd tried, he didn't mention it. He just said he liked it and pronounced himself well stuffed at the end of the meal. Since he'd done the cooking, it seemed good manners to handle the washing up, which I did by bundling everything into the dishwasher and leaving it to thrash away in its own time. I felt a sudden, anxious flutter of uncertainty. What was I supposed to be doing with Darian now? I needed to transition this cozy domesticity back to the safety of fucking, not all that advisable after a heavy meal. Mainly I just felt like sprawling on the sofa and relaxing. What was wrong with me? Maybe he put sedatives in the cottage pie. We drifted back to the living room, silence bumping along awkwardly beside us. In an ideal world, I would have been able to retire for brandy and cigars, and then come back when I was ready to fuck him. Dinner had just about exhausted my capacity for conversation, and besides, what else could we possibly have to say to one another? Physical desire was about as much as I was capable of mustering for anyone, and even that was transient. a thing of fading moments. Darian bounced onto my sofa and, once again, I was reduced to perching in my own bloody home. I just didn't want either of us to get too comfortable. Come on, babes. He grabbed me by my jacket and pulled me down. I landed half on top of him, half between his long legs, which he then proceeded to wrap lazily around me. You're creasing my suit, he just grinned. I tried to think of something to say, came up utterly blank, and then panicked. When had something as basic as talking to someone turned into an impossible task? If I survived tonight, perhaps I could take up spinning straw into gold. But I should have known I could count on Darian. So what else you like? He asked incorrigibly. The answer you, which served as both evasion and flirtation, rose to the tip of my tongue, but I didn't say it. What did I like? My pursuits were solitary to the point a solipsism man essentially performed the function of marking time. They were the things I did in the spaces between depression. Like Vladimir and Estragon passing bowler hats around. And about as meaningful. My entire life subsumed into the act of waiting to be ill, then waiting to be better, the one consuming the other. Desperation consumed me. How about a game of Scrabble, 8 of WW, babes? I would, but you'll have me. I'll be like sitting there spelling, I dunno, cat and jug, and you'll be like getting hypoallergenic on a triple word score. Hypoallergenic? Good God, it's unmoisturizer, in it. His fingers played idly along the back of my hand, sending little gasps of sensation rippling across my skin. I shook him off and tugged down my cuffs. Of course it is. But, I dug deep into my past as someone who was fun to be with. We can play Nabbielli instead. What's that? Then, well, it's the opposite of Scrabble. I think maybe rugby is the opposite of Scrabble. I tilted my head so I could bestow upon him my most lascivious look. Well, you're very welcome to come scrum with me. Wish I had eaten all that cottage pie now. Let's do, was it? Nabble. And I don't mind losing, really. 'Cause you're sexy when you're being clever. Oh. You blushing. No. So, nabble. Basically you can only play words that aren't in the dictionary. You what? God, they teach weird stuff at university. I took the opportunity to haul myself out of the ridiculous sprawl in which he trapped me. It's really simple. Any made-up word counts, assuming you have the letters, and somewhere to place them, and you can make a case for what the word means. But if it's not convincing, then it gets disqualified. So you couldn't have, FSKSWZ for example, as it blatantly doesn't mean anything. But you could have, I don't know, dwelkin. What's a dwelkin then? I think it's probably a loosely knitted garment, a bit like a poncho, but made of yak hair. He considered it. Yeah, he said finally, I can see that. I reckon there was probably like a trend a couple of summers back, but it never caught on proper 'cause there was naff. So I dug out my dusty, very dusty, Scrabble set and we sat on my living room floor, playing Nabble. Even to Allie I stretched out on my side, propping myself up with an elbow, nudging the letters around lazily with the fingertips of one hand. Darian, however, sat solemnly cross-legged, frowning over the board, a single lock of hair shaken loose from its gel, hanging in front of his eyes. A banal setting for a glitter pirate, but it did not dull him. The sight of him stirred a wanting that was starting to feel familiar, though it was less frantic tonight. It was a warm, steady thing, like a heartbeat. He was uncertain at first, but soon he was nabbling like an old hand. First came Glink, that like look what happens when two people are fancying each other from across the dance floor, then Gloffel, like when you put too much toffee in your mouth at once, then Mooshes. Ankle boots made out of crocodile leather with pom-poms hanging on him, big in New Zealand, rapazzled, off your head, obs, and quimpet, like when hair extensions get all weird up at the top like what happened to Britney. And then, somehow, I got silly and offered up Svlenky to describe the motion of his hips while dancing, to which he responded with flinkling, which was apparently what my brow did when I was coming up with something sarcastic to say. From there we moved through a few variations too ridiculous to be recorded, I foolishly formulated Glimstruck as a representation of how it felt to be around him, and then we graduated to kissing, still fully clothed like a pair of teenagers. On the wreckage of the Scrabble board. He crashed over me like a wave and I was drowning. He shone so brightly and I was burning. Touched by his hands and his body and his unintended mercies, I needed my distance back. Difficult, though, when my skin sang at his closeness and I blazed with wanting. I wanted to put my lips against his neck. I wanted to lick the sweat from where it would gather like glitter in the secret hollows of his flesh. I wanted him naked in my arms, like I'd had him in Brighton, but with not even darkness between us this time. I wanted to give him pleasure. Lavish him in it. Bedeck him with it, like pirate gold. Weave him a crown of all my lost dreams. I wanted to kneel at his feet and suck his cock. I wanted him on his back, so I could look into his eyes while I fucked him. I want to watch you make yourself come, I said against his ear, breathless and terrified. His head came up. Air, what? I want to watch now. I got it, he said quickly. I sorta meant why. Because I need you to stop touching me. Because I want to touch you. Because I want to. And you did say you'd do what I said. Yeah, but it's embarrassing why. I felt uncertainty in the small movements of his body on mine. Well, it's private, ain't it? And no point when I got you right here, babes. I felt him smiling as he kissed my neck. More fun with two. I bet you look hot. No, I probably look well enough. I slithered a hand beneath his t-shirt, my palm seeking out the delicate ridges of his muscles, learning the hidden landscape of his skin. Haven't you ever wanted to watch someone else? I haven't really thought about it. Don't you think it might be hot? I dunno, he said dubiously. He tried again to kiss me but I kept talking, my voice ringing distantly in my ears, like I was giving a sex lecture to a vast and empty room. Well, there's always an extent to which the erotic intersects with our notions of the forbidden and the repressed. Often the things that seem the most outrageous to our sensibilities are the ones that carry the most powerful erotic charge. You think way too much about everything, babes. I made a clumsy attempt to right my clothes, pulling my jacket onto my shoulders again and tucking my shirt back into my trousers. Please. There was a pause. You really want me to with myself? With you watching? With all your clothes on? I nodded. Fuck knew what my face was broadcasting. Well, alright, he said, at last. But if it goes weird I'm stopping. I nodded again. And, after a moment, he peeled off his t-shirt, bearing an expanse of smooth, dark golden skin to my gaze. I suddenly realized it was the first time I'd really had the opportunity to look at him, but it was not like looking at a stranger. As though my fingertips had unconsciously sought the knowing of him in secret touches, and read him like fragments of braille. He was quite lovely somehow, all sleek lines and subtle definition. He was also perhaps the most groomed man I'd ever seen in real life, though the fake tan couldn't hide the freckles that gathered across the tops of his shoulders and dusted his arms. Oh, white, he said, looking awkward. I must have been staring. Oh, yes, he gave a slightly shy smile. He wriggled out of his jeans, not without difficulty, making me wonder how he'd ever managed to get into them, and finally out of his boxers. He took his uninspired cock in a half-hearted grip. You look gorgeous, I said. I feel like a ripe plum. You're beautiful. I meant it. I meant it so utterly I was choking on the beauty of him. I looked at him, as though it could be like touching, as though eyes could be pilgrims. Thank you, he said after a moment, hand moving lazily upon his hardening cock. You must know. You're a model, for God's sake, he swallowed. Yeah, but, what on impulse. I put my hand on his hand, aligning my fingers over his, feeling the heat of his cock against my skin, through his skin. His breath hitched, color gilding the tops of his wide, angular cheekbones. It's just faking, he mumbled, eyes fluttering like he was falling into a dream, or waking from one. Could be a right mantra underneath, bollocks. Now stop making excuses and get wonking, he tipped back his head and laughed. He was fully erect now, hot and heavy beneath our tangled hands, So I left him to it. I put my back to the sofa, folded my trembling fingers about an upraised knee and watched, pouring myself into his every breath and his every motion. From the steady stroking of his hand to the involuntary flutter of his darkened lashes over his pleasure-closing eyes. I saw the slow kindling of desire through his body, like a match put to the corner of a piece of a newspaper. I saw the tightening of the long, lean muscles of his calves, the slight curling of his exquisitely manicured toes, the eager darkening of his cock and the glisten of precomb that gathered on the head, the delicate feathering of his serratus anterior as he lifted an arm above his head. I saw the sinewy invitation of his hips as he twisted a little. And what on earth is that? I asked. His hand stilled. His lips clung to each other a moment before parting in speech. What? There's a man's name written on your body. Oh yeah, nothing to be jell about, babes. It's only my ex. I'm not jealous. I tilted my head to better decipher a piece of ornate calligraphy. It appeared to read, somewhat pathetically for the amount of artistry that had gone into it, Gary. It's just, I went on, you have somebody's name indelibly inscribed on your flesh. He pushed himself onto his elbows, abandoning his cock completely. Do you want to be talking about my ex or watching me do myself? 'Cause I reckon it's either or, babes. He's like a maid now and it'd be proper cringe. There was something wrong with me. Well, there were lots of things wrong with me. But for some reason I seem to be still asking about Gary. I just don't understand why you would do something like that. And for someone you're not even dating anymore. He was my first boyfriend. We was proper in love. Together for like months. Wow, months. And this led you to brand yourself. I think it's nice. I have no idea what to say to that. 66. Well, the people you love are always gonna be with you. Like, he tapped his chest. In your heart or whatever. So what's the difference? One of them is symbolic and the other is the word Gary literally written on your arse. No, it ain't. He paused. It's next to my arse. Not the point. Can't believing we having this convo with me sitting here with my bits hanging out. I just think, sometimes it's nice to have stuff outside instead of inside. I'm a lifetime subscriber to the private repression program. I just think you're Jesus wept. I'm not jealous. He ignored me and, to my surprise, wrapped a hand round his cock again. I rather thought I'd killed the mood with my ridiculous questions, but apparently stupidity was one of his turn-ons. Like it when you look at me like that. I didn't know how I was looking at him, only that I was, and I couldn't look away. His hand moved harder and faster, in time with his quickening breath, drawing my attention back to his cock. My own gave an unhappy, neglected throb. God, I wanted to touch him. His mouth curved into a mischievous smile, his eyes a deep, lust hazy blue. I think you're like protesting too much. He stroked the fingers of his spare hand over the pristine skin of his other hip. You wanna see Ash Rittenware? Or, EA winners, 'cause you're all proper. Just shut up and wank. The unsteadiness of my voice betrayed me. He'd only been teasing, but, in some twisted way, it was absolutely true. I would have written myself into his skin if only I could, like a prisoner marking the walls of his cell, just to prove I was still alive and that I did not drift, untouching and untouched, through a universe of empty spaces and fading stars. He said, a few seconds later, don't you think it's sort of like a waste? Like, this? He briefly indicated his cock. Wouldn't you rather, fuck? Yeah, yes. No, I think, he said, after another moment, maybe you do. There was a heavy scent of arousal in the air, skin and sweat, with a sticky chemical undertone of hair product and cologne. Is that so? Yet another pause. What would happen if I tried something? I swallowed, staring at the movement of his hand as though mesmerized by the gliding skin. I would protest most vociferously, I said quietly, and accuse you of reneging on our deal. He stopped and pushed me down onto the carpet, pinning me beneath his naked body, his hands briefly forming sweet, warm shackles about my upper arms. I could feel his heart thudding against my back and I made a tormented, needy noise, utterly self-betrayed. I wished I could be naked with him, but it was too complicated, too revealing. I'd settle for this. What's reneging, he whispered. Cheating. I twisted, pushing my hips up to meet him, burying my face in my forearms, the sleeves of my jacket cold, synthetic and wrong against my skin. This you protesting? He asked, running a hand over my arse and down the slope of my back while I trembled. Yes. Oh God, Darian, just like checking. It ain't really right. I turned my head and snarled at him. Fucking fuck me. For fuck's sake. For a pasho, he said, scrabbling with the buttons on my trousers and yanking them down. You haven't got no class.